Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Richie Carney, Rachel V. Hill, hanging out at the coffee break table. I feel like we need to call it the coffee break table.
I think so. I mean, it would make sense.
Or like we need something. We need like a nickname. Like Good Morning Football has the breakfast table, you know? Like we need some sort of name for the table.
Yeah, I mean, coffee table seems obvious.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you on that. I'm flustered this morning because, to be honest, I found out really good news around 7:30. Richie texts me and he goes, "Guess who's coming to Broncos training camp?" And he sends me this lovely tweet. The one and only Kay Adams is coming to Broncos training camp, and I am like giddy about it.
I actually audibly gasped when I looked at my phone out because I love Kay Adams. I think she does such a great job.
Me too.
I've never met her, but I've always been like, man, that would be so cool if we like cross paths an event or something like that. And now it's probably going to happen.
Will Richie or I get a picture? Probably not, but we'll at least see her. And
I'm going to be taking like a mental picture. I'm just going to be, I'm going to take a selfie that she's in the background of and just like, hey, you know, can we make this closer? Can we, you know?
Oh, I love her. So I'm really excited. So I feel like I'm all flustered. I'm like, all right, it's time to get out to training camp. I'm super pumped about it. Broncos bringing a new running back, and I'm kind of confused by this. Well, first of all, I just want to get to this point. Are we getting the Saints 2.0? Because it feels like Sean Payton's just bringing in everybody he knows and loves, and he's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of that, I would say. Whenever you, I think that's in life, you see that in business. When a company hires a new CEO, that person tends to clean things out and bring in people that they work well with, that they trust, that they're comfortable with executing their vision. I feel like it makes sense to say that on a football team. If a head coach comes in, he has a tight end that he really likes, Adam Troutman. He has an offensive lineman or whatever it is, a running back that he's familiar with, skill position players. He knows that person is comfortable executing what he wants to do, and it helps make the transition into his offense easier. They can teach the other guys that are going to be learning it for the first time. So are we getting the Saints 2.0? Maybe a little bit. I mean, it is, it's not like, we're getting this whole onslaught of Saints starters that are coming over here. And it's like, we're literally just migrating, but for depth and in backup positions, I could see it being a reasonable thing.
Okay. I actually like it when you say it that way, because I'm like, well, Sean Payton's team wasn't very good when he obviously decided to leave. So I'm like, I don't really want Saints 2.0, but for the depth purposes and having people who already know the system, I'm kind of down for it.
Yeah, I mean, if Sean Payton's offense requires a very specific thing out of his tight ends or along the offensive line, having an Adam Troutman, a Chris Manhertz, guys who have been with him for long periods of time that can explain the nuances to the Greg Dulciches, the Albert O's, the Garrett Bowleses who work right next to him. I think that's probably helpful.
Troutman seems to just be target number one for Russell Wilson, like all across the board. I know everybody is talking about him right now. You agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think that there's some comfortability there. I think for one, Troutman probably knows, like I was saying, the nuances of Sean Payton's offense better than some of those other tight ends.
So are we saying that Russell Wilson knows it then?
I think
if
that
they have a connection.
If Russell Wilson doesn't know it, I think he at least knows from a comfortability standpoint that, like, as the tight end, based on the routes that he's running and where he's going to be at in my progressions, he's an easy, safe option. So if Sean Payton, which I think he is making an emphasis of getting the ball out quicker and not having Russell Wilson run around for his life like we saw so much last year, then I think it's probably safe to say that he views Adam Troutman, even when he's not the primary read, as a safety valve option of, hey, this is going to be a short route over the middle. If it's open, I'll take what they give me. I think that you could see Michael Burton, the fullback, probably be a similar role in that of like, hey, we're going to be looking to push the ball down to Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, things like that. But sometimes you just got to take what the defense gives you. And I think Adam Troutman in the offense that they're going to run is going to provide a lot of that.
You don't see a lot of fullbacks in the NFL nowadays, but I like that Sean Payton is still sticking with it. Like, he clearly likes it. And so he's like, you know what? I'm not getting rid of it just because it seems to be old NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's gone by the wayside because I just feel like you have, with more mobile athletic running quarterbacks and spreading out the offenses and taking advantage of the athleticism that seems to get better and better and better every year, it becomes a smaller group. And Michael Burton actually talked about that, about how they have like there's such a small knit community in the NFL that they all keep in touch together, a lot. But if you look at common threads among, it's not to say that it works every time, but if you look at the offenses that use it, the San Francisco 49ers with Kyle Juszczyk,
Yeah.
they have one of the more dynamic offenses considered, league wide.
Yeah.
The Ravens use Patrick Ricard, I think his name is. And they do a lot of fun stuff with that. And then, you could go back to the Green Bay Packers when they had John Kuhn and Aaron Rodgers, and they were able to mix some of those things up. So I think if you have a coach that came up with that mindset combined with the kind of evolution of today's game, it creates some fun options for you.
Also gives a little bit more protection to Russell Wilson.
True.
Which is going to be needed this year, especially with how the offensive line looks. But I do want to go on. Dwayne Washington, the new running back coming from the Saints. I'm surprised to see a new running back entering into the system because I feel like every single time I'm out there, I'm like, running back position looks good. Like Javonte's looking better. P. Ryan is definitely, stepping up. And then you've got McLaughlin out there who just looks like a freaking star. And yet people are saying he may not even make this team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with you. I think that all of those guys, I think Javonte has shown signs of encouragement. I'm very bullish on Samaje Perine. I feel like I've said that, and I think he's going to carve out a significant role. And Jaleel McLaughlin presents almost that like Phillip Lindsay X factor spark of like a change of pace guy that he has more burst than the other guys do. He doesn't have the size, so he's not a bruiser between the tackles like we've seen, Javonte be and Samaje at times. But he provides that like quick shake up, potential out of the backfield. We saw it in the preseason game, but things look good, especially like at a position like that where there's such a heavy usage rate and a physicality element to it. Things look good in that running back room until they don't. If Javonte Williams coming off an injury suffers some kind of setback, that changes the whole complexity of the room because now it's next man up. Samaje comes up, Jaleel McLaughlin takes on a secondary role, and then who's going to take Jaleel's place? So with how bruised and battered running backs get and how much in today's NFL they just get ground up and used in these offenses, I think it's safe to say that they're a position where you may not be able to have enough.
I can totally understand your point. I guess I was just surprised at this point with all like the good thing we've heard about Javonte coming in. We saw P. Ryan working with the ones yesterday, so we know it's going to be kind of running back by committee. And then with McLaughlin and the fact that people are saying, hey, he may not even be on this team, it made me just think with Washington coming in that they're not satisfied with the running back room, and so that we're going to still see changes.
And that you very well could. You very well could, because I think Sean Payton takes that evaluation approach to everything.
True.
We've heard him talk about it with the kickers about, we're always going to be looking and we'll go shopping. And
also real quick on that, I love how everybody is so invested in the kicking competition. Like all of our comments yesterday from the show were a lot like, what's going on with the kickers? Is there a kicking competition still? Like what's happening there? I even had a friend last night who was like, so McManus is gone. Who's like next up? It's just fascinating that people are so into the kicker.
The Broncos have had arguably, I would bet that they stack up with almost any franchise in the NFL in terms of like going consistently stringing together like above average to elite level kickers. I mean, Jason Elam, Matt Prater, Brandon McManus all had major long stints with this team and were highly effective at doing it. And that's actually pretty rare.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much more common to see. Sean Payton might be the extreme other end of it, where like in New Orleans, it just felt like it was a revolving door at kicker and you were cycling through 3-4 a season, perhaps. So he's maybe on the far end of that with what he did in New Orleans. But it is going to be a bizarre feeling for Broncos country to have any kind of uncertainty when it comes to the kicker, because it's just been something that's so automatic and they've just been fortunate and, probably a little bit of skill involved there if you're picking them out, but they've definitely been fortunate that these kickers have been able to make such long tenured runs, and it's been something they never had to worry about.
Well, it's fun too, because we can finally say our Russ-o-meter is looking like Russ is looking pretty dang good out there, everybody. It's definitely not something I think we were all like, all right, Russell Wilson's going to be fixed 100%. But with it being the last day of training camp, the Rams come in next week. So that's kind of like an awkward thing because it's not actually training camp next week. But one way or another, I feel like I'm feeling a little bit better about how Russell Wilson is looking.
Yeah, I think the offense is catching a little bit of the stride. And you talk to any of the former athletes that work with us, from Mark Schlereth on down, they will tell you, even the defensive players will acknowledge, the offense has a little bit more complexity to it in terms of the intricacies of the routes and the protections and sliding and all that, whereas the defense operates more as a cohesive kind of unit. There's so much individuality with the offense that it takes them a little bit more time. So I'm encouraged to see. It doesn't mean to say that I was fully excusing some of the struggles they had in the beginning.
Oh, no.
But I'm definitely encouraged to see them kind of string it together. And I think the joint practices every year seem to provide a lot of illumination. When the 49ers came in here and whooped the Broncos around a few years ago, it was like, oh, these guys aren't ready. You know, the Vikings gave it, you know, the Vikings in right after George Payton came out and we joint practice with them. We found a lot out of that. The Cowboys last year with how chippy it got, Randy Gregory trying to fight his own teammates, fight his old teammates, even though he wasn't even practicing and all of that. It was
he's like in his bucket hat. He's ready to go.
That validated a lot of concerns that we had with the training camp with Camp Hackett. And so I think getting to go up against the Rams, an established championship caliber, you know, head coach in Sean McVay with Matthew Stafford, another veteran who's changed teams and went through some of those things. I think we're going to be able to see, you know, a preview, even in some ways, maybe more illuminating than the preseason game, the first one, about what this team's going to look like.
I'm excited for Saturday night. Second preseason game of the year. There's still obviously a ton to talk about, but also big news. Chick-fil-A is getting a new sandwich. And can we get it today for lunch, or when does it come out?
You cannot. It's the first time in 9 years, I think, that they've come out with a new sandwich, which that kind of surprised me. I was like, wow, they haven't changed their menu in 9 years, and everyone still loves them just the same. Like, that's how you know the product is. Yeah. And so it's a honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich, which just on the name alone, you've sold me. I will drive to a Chick-fil-A and just to test it out. The pimento thing makes me think of the Masters, and it's got the, you know, the nostalgia factor.
I like it.
I'm a spicy fan, so you get a little bit of that. There's also coming out with like a caramel milkshake, which, because they're debuting them together, probably going to get that too. I'm very easily marketed, I feel like. I'm a target.
I told you $500,000 to go spend 100 days in the wild, and you were like, sign me up, everybody.
$500,000.
Not doing it.
Like, even in a, like, how many briefcases do you need to fit that much cash in there? You know what I mean? It's like a movie.
My sanity is more important to me than spending 100 days by myself.
Not for me. Drive me crazy.
When can I get the Chick-fil-A sandwich? Do we know?
August 28th, I believe, is the first
so we
day.
got 11 more days to get the Chick-fil-A sandwich. Maybe we'll test it here on Coffee Break.
Yep.
Well, it probably won't be available yet.
It's debuting August 28th, I believe, and it's only available for a limited time. So maybe one of those things where you got to like do the drive outside the drive-through so you can roll by and see the menu and see if it's there before you fully commit.
Yeah, but it won't be available by 10:30 a.m. because they don't switch their lunch menu till 11.
The breakfast.
We'll do a little.
Who do we talk to at Chick-fil-A?
Clip.
Whose people can we reach out to?
We'll find some people, especially this guy. I know he can. All right, everybody. Last day of training camp. Fans will be in attendance. Kay Adams is here. We're going to go find her. We hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you're headed out to practice, denversports.com zone. Last day, you can see all the guys hanging out there, that Ford F-150 truck as well. Richie and I will be there, and we'll be back to talk tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for a whole other episode of Coffee Break. We'll see you guys then. Bye. Get back to work, everybody. Get back to work. Bye.